Imagine going from the boy who couldn't afford shoes to becoming the greatest player in the world. Pele changed the game and created a new era of football. But the question is, back in the day, just how good was he? His rise to the top was unique. Pele was born on October 3, 1940 in Minas Gerais, Brazil. His dad, Dodinho, used to be a former pro, and his mom was Celeste Arantes. Early on, his dad suffered an injury that forced him to retire early from the game. And with his main source of income gone, the family had to struggle to get by. In fact, it was so bad that young Pele had to polish shoes just to help contribute to the family income. But pretty soon, he realized that there was a way that would get him and the family out of all the hardship and into the spotlight. Football! Despite the injury his dad suffered early on, Pele always wanted to play the game, and all the years he spent playing barefoot were starting to pay off, because at the age of 11, he got his first major break in the game. A scout from Santos came to watch him play, and the guy couldn't believe his eyes whenever Pele was on the ball. It was like watching magic. The scout's name was Waldemar de Brito, and he was so impressed with Pele that he predicted that Pele would go on to become the greatest in the world. See guys, because he had no shoes to play with early on, Pele thought the best he'd be able to get out of the game would be futsal. And he bounced around a couple of amateur teams like in the country, but at Santos they wanted him to play the game properly, and he became a revelation. Pele had impressed both the coaches and the board and immediately got registered to the first team. He made his debut at 15 and even scored in the same game, a 7-1 win over Corinthians. At the start of the 1956-57 season, Pele wasn't just a member of the team anymore. His skills had set him apart. Now he was in the starting 11, and he continued to impress. With the way he was playing, it was only a matter of time before Pele made the national team. And a couple of months later, he finally did it. He made his debut for the Selecao against their South American rivals Argentina. The game ended 2-1 with Argentina winning the match, but for the Brazilian fans, they had every reason to be positive. Because the dude who'd scored in this one was Pele. At 16 years and 9 months, Pele officially became the youngest player to score for Brazil. And form like that earned him a place in Brazil's squad for the 1958 World Cup. His chance to fulfill a promise he made to his dad. This one goes 8 years back. In the 1950 World Cup on home turf, Brazil agonizingly lost the final to Uruguay at the Maracanã, and many Brazilians, including Pele and his dad, were heartbroken. But at that moment, instead of letting the grief get to him, Pele made his dad a promise he knew he was going to keep. "One day, Dad, I'll win the World Cup and you'll see." 8 years from that moment, and this was his chance. But it seems fate didn't see it like that, because Pele came into this tournament injured. As a result, Brazil's coach at the time, Vicente Fiola, didn't think that Pele would be ideal to play in the competition, so he benched him for the first 2 games. But the day before the final group stage game against the USSR, Pele's teammates came together and demanded that he played. The coach didn't want to fall out with his squad, so he gave in to their requests and started Pele, and in turn he proved them right. He bagged an assist on his first start, but his biggest performance of the tournament came in the semifinals. Brazil was up against France, and the French team had a goal machine named Jess Fontaine, who could score from all angles. But halftime of this one, Brazil was winning 2-1, but they knew the lead wasn't safe yet. So in the second half, Pele turned up the heat and did this. Bagged a hat-trick to send Brazil to the final. Incredible! There was no way he was going back to the bench after this one. And in the final against Czechoslovakia, Pele became the youngest player to play in the World Cup final, 17 years and 249 days. The feat alone should have been enough for him, but Pele remembered 8 years back and knew he still owed his dad that promise.
I'll win a World Cup for Brazil I promise.
So with everyone watching back home, once again, Pele lit up the occasion. 2 goals in the final, Brazil won 5-2, and at 17 years old, Pele became the youngest player to not just score in the World Cup final, but win the entire thing. History made. Off the back of that World Cup performance, Pele immediately became one of the most in-demand talents in the game. Teams like Manchester and Real Madrid wanted to sign him, but still being a kid at the time, Pele didn't want to leave Santos. He loved it there. Plus, they showed him how to subscribe to the best content on YouTube by hitting that subscribe button to Footballers down below, and he couldn't leave. In the same year, Pele went on to achieve greater things. He won the Campeonato Paulista with 58 goals in the competition. And in the space of 4 years, Pele went on to cement his place and not just the most important player in Brazil, but arguably in the world. After winning the Campeonato Paulista 2 more times, a victory in the Brazilian Cup against Bahia in the finals meant Santos would be able to compete in the Copa Libertadores, South America's Champions League edition. Did Pele perform in the competition? Of course he did. His 4 goals in the competition helped Santos win the Copa Libertadores for the first time in their history, and he was all set to take his amazing form into his second World Cup with Brazil in the summer. The 1962 World Cup now, and at 21, Pele was now a star in the team, and he played like it. He bagged a goal and an assist in the first game, but in the second one against Czechoslovakia, the Brazilians' worst fears came true. Pele got injured and had to miss the remainder of the tournament. His teammate Garrincha stepped up and fired Brazil to retain their title, and what was on Pele's mind now was getting back to full fitness and capturing his form again. Back with Santos now, and once he was fully fit, Pele was on fire. He scored a hat-trick against Sporting Lisbon to help Santos win the 1962 Intercontinental Cup. Scored 4 goals over both legs in the 1963 Copa Libertadores to help Santos take out a Botafogo team with guys like Garrincha, and in the final they defeated Boca Juniors on their home turf, the Bombonera, and did the same at home. Pele had turned Santos into one of the greatest teams in the world. The 1966 World Cup, and with Pele now being considered as the greatest player on the planet, it was time for him to lead the Brazil team against nations ready to take the trophy from them. The World Cup was being held in England, and it was hard to tell if the fans gathered to watch the home team play or to see Pele. Now, because of how good he was, teams were entering matches with special plans just to hurt him. In the first game against Bulgaria, Pele hit a free kick top bins, but in the same match got fouled so many times that he missed the second game against Hungary due to injury. By the time Pele returned for the third game against Portugal, the same thing happened. I mean, look at this. Not even a card. Brazil lost the game and got eliminated in the first round. And as for Pele, he got so pissed that he decided he wasn't going to play in the World Cup anymore. Truth is, he did. In 1970, Pele was in the team again. He scored against Czechoslovakia, England, and Romania, and in the final against Italy. After bagging to give Brazil the lead, Pele created one of the most iconic photos in the game's history. This signaled a moment. Brazil won the competition to make it the third one in the country's history, and 1 year later, Pele played his last game with the national team against Yugoslavia, and his record of 77 goals for the Selecao had him as the highest goal scorer in the country's history, until my boy Neymar broke it a few years back. Back to Santos, and it seemed Pele wanted a new start. 1974 now, and he'd spent 19 seasons at the club. Rejected offers from Inter Milan and even Manchester United. However, Pele was ready for a new challenge and ready to become the face of a new league. He'd now joined New York Cosmos in the North American Soccer League. And over there, Pele was a star. His arrival took the game in the States to a whole new level. Other legends like Franz Beckenbauer, Johan Cruyff, and even Eusebio later joined the league. By 1977, now 37 years old, Pele decided that his final game would be the one that sealed a second Soccer Bowl title for the New York Cosmos, a 2-1 win over Seattle Sounder. And after an exhibition game between Santos and Cosmos, Pele decided that it was time to hang up his boots. See guys, Pele did more than just play the game. He changed it. He became the first black celebrity in the game, and the record number of goals he scored in his career is unbelievable. Over 1,000 career goals. Video game numbers. After retirement, Pele held many positions in his native Brazil, and even though he never officially won the Ballon d'Or, at the turn of the century, FIFA voted him as the greatest player of the century. Pele continued to influence the game until he died in 2022, becoming an idol for superstars like Neymar, Messi, and even Ronaldo. His legacy lives on. I'd bet his teammates would never forget the time he showed them how to subscribe to footballers. It changed their lives.